Hello and welcome to today's Thought for the Day. My name is Laura and I'm one of the clergy here in Portishead with the Church of England. Today we're going to be exploring quite a famous story in the Bible, the Good Samaritan, and that can be found in Luke chapter 10 verses 25 to 37. Now the Good Samaritan is quite well known to many of us, and there's no reason why not. It's a good story. There's peril, there's a plot twist, and there's a good message to take home. And it's perhaps one of the best known stories known to Christians and others alike from the Bible. But how many of us have sat perhaps in church and thought, not this one again? Well, even if you can't admit to that, I certainly can. In 2012, I found myself in a dark place and my mental health had been struggling for a while. I hadn't made it to church in months, and slowly but surely I broke off relationships with my friends as depression took hold. One morning, I made a pact with God. I said, I'll get out of bed and I'll go to church, but you've got to speak to me. Well, quite a demand, but I got out of bed and I went to church. The church I found myself in that Sunday morning was Anglo-Catholic. It was completely different to what I was used to. I was used to worshipping in a school hall, and the communion looked like a bacon roll and a cup of coffee, and here I was with a teeny tiny wafer and a goblet of wine. I sat in the pews and I opened up the notice sheet when I noticed the readings. It was the Good Samaritan. Great, not that one again. And I nearly got up and left. Quite an extreme reaction, I have to agree, but the procession started and I wasn't able to move without drawing attention to myself or joining the procession, and so I decided to stay. Then came the moment of the sermon, and my prayers were really fervent this time. God, please, please just speak to me, even if it's through this story I have heard a million times. And the sermon began. The priest began by speaking about the characters who walked on past this traveller. She spoke about the ceremonial cleanliness and purity laws. She spoke about the twist of the Samaritan and how they were hated, how our neighbour reflects our differences. What a waste of time, I thought. I've heard this all before. God, my deal rested with you in the knowledge that you would speak to me, just heal me, anything. And the priest continued. But what of the traveller on the floor, the man half dead? They had to accept help. They had to accept help from an unlikely source. They had to put all their trust in a stranger they didn't know. A cultural stranger, a religious stranger, a literal stranger. The traveller already so vulnerable, having been beaten up and left for dead. And yet now they had to dig deeper into their vulnerability. They had to reach out and say yes to help. And in the end, this traveller's healing came from the most unexpected of places. I'm the traveller, I thought. I didn't have time to tell God, well, fair play, you held up your end of the bargain. God, by God's grace, did that for me. And God's Spirit was already beginning to move within me, and I could feel the tears welling up. I realised I needed to reach out and tell someone how I was feeling. I needed to accept help. Later on in the service, I approached the altar rail and I knelt, incense swirling around me, and something changed as I took the bread and the wine. I felt different. I felt lighter. This moment felt sacred. So I went to the back of the church and I asked for prayer. And as we prayed, a gentle breeze blew across my face, and for the first time in a really long time, I felt God's presence with me. I sat back in the pew, and the person sat next to me said, "You look different. Something's changed." And it had. I won't say that that was what healed me completely. Doctors and therapists and friends and family all played a part, but it was the beginning of a healing journey for me. The start of knowing that help can come from the most unexpected of places. From bread, from wine, from a tradition other than my own. Before the story of the Good Samaritan, Jesus sends out the 72, perhaps another well-known story to those of us who have been partaking in our PMC journey. Sent out in pairs, the 72 are sent out to spread the gospel to the ends of the earth. And in sending them out, Jesus says there's much work to do, but they're going to be like lambs amongst the wolves. He says that you're to accept lodgings and meals and drinks from anybody who's a person of peace. Now imagine you're one of the disciples. You've just seen Jesus send out the 72. You've heard the message that he's given to them. And here, in response to the lawyer's question, you hear the story of the Good Samaritan. I wonder if they would have made a link. Maybe they would have said, wait, what? Am I the traveller? What's happened to my companion? Is this what it looks like to be a lamb amongst the wolves? Left for dead? Wait, what? And the Samaritan is a person of peace? Are we to go to the ends of the earth and Samaria? Are we to accept lodgings and meals and drinks from them, even them? And I wonder if the disciples saw that Jesus isn't just creating a plot twist to get them to think about who they're a neighbour to, but how we accept and receive hospitality from a neighbour which feels unexpected. Perhaps this isn't just a story about helping others, but about receiving help. Perhaps it's not just a story about the process of healing, but about how partnering in the gospel really works. I used to work in London with young people who were involved in inner city gangs. I remember during one session they shared about a friend who'd been recently stabbed. One of the boys piped up, "I'd prefer to have died than have any of them lot help me." And I asked them, "What do you mean? If you were laid there dying, you wouldn't accept the help if they were from another street just because of the colours they wore?" "Course not," he replied. I was stunned and surprised. I wondered if he'd realised what he was saying. But sometimes divisions really do run that deep, and so does the hurt. Sometimes it feels like it's better to be dead than receive the help from others. That it's better to be dying than to see where God is offering us a future. And I wonder if sometimes the church can be a little bit like this. If the church can sometimes be a place where it's better to be dying and have everything in its right place than alive and in the world. And I wonder if sometimes we can be a little bit like this. If we can sometimes reject the help which we so desperately need, rather than take the risk and connect with others. When the 72 returned to Jesus, there's no doubt that they encountered difficulties along the way. Some of them even mentioned demons, and others, I'm sure, encountered wolves. And yet we're told that they return with utter joy. So I wonder how our traveller in the Good Samaritan returned home. Did he return with a healed body, mind and soul to worship God with all of the parts of his being and to love his neighbour as himself? I wonder if he returned with a healed division between him and the Samaritans. And I wonder if he returned with a friend. As we end, I just want to encourage us, if we've been struggling, if we need to seek help beyond ourselves, then please do seek that. And I want to end with a prayer used regularly within the Northumbria community as we settle into a time of reflection. And I just encourage you to think about those places where God might be encountering us, those unexpected spaces and people and communities. say this prayer, which may be familiar to some of you. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you, wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness, protect you through the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you. May he bring you home rejoicing once again into our doors. Take care and God bless, and hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.